this is part 1 of 2 of hiring an expert. The focus of this lesson is going to be on how to get the most money for the expert that you hire. So talking about value, what gives you value when you hire an expert? My name is Scott Conway, PhD, JD, and depending upon what subject you're looking for, I am an expert. On other subjects, I know nothing. But if you hire me to come in and teach leadership or teach any of the skills connected to leadership or the mental game, the inner game, that I am going to be one of the experts that you might have coming into your company, coming into your business, even possibly, depending upon exactly what you need covered, coming into your home even. So depending upon what we're working on, you're going to have an opportunity to get value from me. Now, of course, when you're dealing with experts, some of the easiest things to do is have people come in and do a keynote at an event maybe that you're hosting. Have people come in and do training, or maybe a half day or a full day training at your business, or do an off-site, maybe at a weekend retreat. And so there's lots of ways you might hire an expert. You might have someone come in and bring their expertise into your company. Now, one of the dirty little secrets of the industry that I have to tell you about, and if you have any experience hiring experts, you probably already know this, that for the most part, people who get expert training actually don't do anything with it. So one of the secrets to making sure you get some value of it is to know how to get your team to actually take action. Now, here's one of the secrets. Have no more than 1 to 3 things that they're actually going to do. It's going to be a bit more complicated a thing, a more involved thing, more of a shift. Make it 1 thing. If it's just tiny little adjustments, doing something a little bit different, make it 3. But try to keep the numbers pretty small. Because if you actually want to see change happen in your organization, it's important that you give them as few things to do as possible. Now, I'll tell you, I'm as guilty of this as anyone else, because one of the things I do to continue honing my own skills is I attend events. I attend high-end events, I attend medium-end events, I attend lower-end events. If the topic is something that interests me, I'll be there. Now, I will also tell you, sometimes when I'm there, I'll be taking lots of notes. I was recently at an event, had 10 separate seminar sessions. I attended 5 of them. 5 of them had material that interested me. If I tried to implement everything in my notes, I would go home and I'd have some 30 or 40 things to do. Well, you know what? I'm not going to do 30 or 40 things. And so you need a system for deciding what you're going to do. Now, it helps if the trainer knows how to train so that your action steps are clear. If you're learning philosophy, principles, ideas, that the ideas are clean and clear, that they're well organized, that they're easy to understand and they're easy to adopt. If you're learning new skills, that the skill sets, the action sets, the things that you need to do are very clean and clear. And then that will allow for implementation. Now, if you want to implement change, the number 1 thing that will determine if change actually occurs is follow-up. Think about how many seminars you've attended. If you're someone who's been to seminars, you're someone who's read books, you're someone who's attended events, think about how many times you went to an event and it really was life-changing. And you went home, and from that day forward, forever, you were different. And everything stuck. If you're like most people, that didn't happen to you at every single event. In fact, if you're like most people, that probably happened to you not at all, or no more than once or maybe twice, depending upon the events, the number of events that you attend, and the kind of events that they are. So what we're going to talk about as we dive in here is, if you have an expert coming to you, how do you make sure you get the most out of it? Now, at the end of the lesson, I'm going to talk about how do you make sure change actually occurs. Now, this is something when I come to your company, I highly recommend you do. Now, some of the trainings that I do don't require any shift in behavior, that having the insight and the understanding and the adjustment that occurs inside creates the shift. And you don't need to consciously go home and take particular action. that it changes you during the course of some particular trainings. It can change you as a husband, as a wife, as a parent, as an employee, as a manager, by having a different level of insight, and the specific actions naturally flow from the insight because of the particular way I do the training. But for most skill training and most philosophical training and most things that have any kind of adjustment in your behavior, and it's a specific adjustment or set of adjustments, there's a particular way you can do follow-up that will maximize the probability that you, your team member, or your entire team as a group will actually make a change. We're going to talk about that after we talk about 7 ways to get the most value out of your expert. 7 ways to get the most value out of your expert. Now, very quickly, so you know where we're going on the list, I'm going to give you all 7 right now. It's marketing and promotions. Number 2 is multiple trainings in a day. Number 3 is multiple topic training. Number 4 is launch training from books or programs. Number 5 is mealtime chats. Number 6 is hosting experts, which has a particular power to it, by the way. And number 7 is partnering with other organizations. So getting the most value from your expert. Marketing and promotions. Now, if you're putting on an event and you're trying to get people to your event, then you may want some help doing marketing and promotions. Now, depending upon if your expert is a draw, if the personality is a draw, that you can have them come help you with marketing and promotions. Maybe they'll do radio interviews, maybe they'll send you some video, maybe they already have materials that they would use and they'll send that to you. They'll let you use their image, their likeness, their logo. If the topic they're teaching is a draw, they might even do a teleseminar or a webinar for you and do things for you that will help you draw people to your event. Now, even if you're talking about a corporate event, a company event at your company, where you don't need to draw people to it, you can still ask the expert if they will participate maybe in providing material for an article for the company newsletter, or to be interviewed. And that way you can get the information out and you can try to stir up some interest, you can lay a foundation, and your people will get more value. It'll kind of set the stage, they'll know what to expect, they'll know what the topic is, and there'll be enough of a foundation so that when I'm teaching students how to study, kind of creating the framework. So that way their brain will be ready to show up and learn this kind of material because they will walk in already knowing that this is what they're going to be studying. And depending upon the nature and depth of the interview or the article that they provide or the video that they provide, they might have enough of a framework to kind of know what direction it's going in and kind of what that's going to look like. So that's marketing and promotions, and they can help you out with that. Now, particularly if you communicate primarily in email, if you communicate with your website, they might be able to provide video for you, they might be able to provide links, they might even be able to provide downloads for you. And so there's all sorts of things that might become available that will help you generate interest and help your people prepare beforehand and to promote the event so that people are more interested and more excited about being there. Number 2, now this one's enormously powerful, and this is multiple trainings in a day. So like in my case, if you're going to hire me to come out, chances are going to be high we'll end up working it out on a bit of a per diem basis. That I'll be paid for my results, that if I'm helping you solve a problem that has a certain dollar value, that the fee that I charge is going to be based upon the amount of money I'm likely to save your company with the work I'm going to do, provided we get implementation of my policies and the procedures that I will recommend, and that you use my training in the way that it is intended to create that shift in your company. Well, if I'm going to be showing up at your company anyway, you can have me do extra things. I mean, certainly in my case, if you want me to come do the half-day training in the morning and maybe another half-day training in the afternoon, but there's another event going on in the evening and you'd like me to come do a keynote speech, chances are high, so long as it's all part of the same client, I'm happy to toss that in for free. And certainly if you're doing multiple trainings in a day and you're paying someone for a half day, you might find out, okay, if we do this in shifts, because obviously I may not want to have everybody in one shift, I mean, one of my particular expertise is in the hospitality industry. And so in order to get everybody in there, if you have a large organization and it's a 24/7 operation, that you might not be able to get everyone in there even in 2 trainings. And so I might be there for a couple of days. I might do an evening training, a morning training, an afternoon training. And in the course of 2 or 3 or even 4 days, we might get to everybody in the organization. Well, if you have a function, say a function or a dinner for management or the executive staff or for the team leaders, you might ask me to come in and if I will do a keynote for them, if I'll do an extra training. So long as I'm there anyway, especially if the logistics of working it out to get to every single shift is going to have a significant gap in my schedule, I might be perfectly willing to step in and do some extra trainings. If you hire a keynote speaker to come in, some keynote speakers would be more than happy to do an extra training, say for your executive staff or at least your C-level team members before the keynote or even after the keynote. Sometimes if you're especially hiring someone to come in from a distance, tapping into the extra things that they might be able to do for you can be something that will help them as well as help you. And the reason for this is very often if we're kind of stuck in a place and we're just sort of waiting around for the next thing that we're going to do and we're teaching a topic that we're very familiar with, so we really don't need much in the way of prep time. Sometimes that downtime when we're kind of stuck at the resort or we're stuck at the offices and there's nothing to do, kind of can make us a little bit antsy because we're just waiting around. And so having an extra training to do sometimes can be exciting for us. It can help alleviate that boredom of sitting around waiting for the next thing that happens in 4 hours, and that we can spend our time doing some extra things. The multiple trainings in a day can also include doing some one-on-one coaching, doing some team consulting, just having someone pick our brains in a Q&A session with your leadership. So there's a lot of ways you can take advantage of the concept of multiple trainings in a day. So number 1 was to elicit the experts' help in your marketing and promotions. Number 2 was to get multiple trainings in a day. Number 3 is multiple topic training. Multiple topic training. Now in my case, say if you're hiring me to come in and do the 4P360 leadership system. Now in a half-day introductory training, and I do recommend that you kind of keep things in nice clean chunks when you're working with staff, that you don't want to just dump too much on them, but the nature of the 4P360 system is that it's layered. It's built a lot like a martial art. Now if you show up to me as a martial arts instructor, and one of the things you're going to ask me to do is to teach you some simple self-defense moves. Well, one of the things I'm going to do for you is I'm going to teach you a set of moves that with very little training and very little practice, just getting a few ideas of the mechanics, you'll be able to do things that will make you safer. Now, in a half-day seminar, would you expect to be ready to step out into the street and handle any mugger that might attack? To be able to handle, anything that might possibly be thrown your way by, a gang of young thugs? Of course not. What you would expect is to be measurably better. For you to know there's something you can do now that you will be able to implement and implement easily from now unto the end of time. When I do my leadership training, it's exactly the same way. I want to teach you something that you can use right now, a new insight, a new understanding, a way of seeing things, and a particular technique that you can see works on those principles, that then you can go back to the office and you can use this exactly as I taught it from now until the end of time. But also like martial arts, what if you found out that the things I taught you in 4 hours is everything that I know? I mean, that's the whole thing, that's the whole system. I would think you'd be a little disappointed. Because if you want to earn a black belt, well, to earn a black belt, you kind of expect there to be 4 to 6 years of stuff to learn. 4 to 6 years of insights, 4 to 6 years of detail, so that you can earn a meaningful black belt. And that's what we do in the 4P360. So in the multiple topic training, it doesn't have to be leadership and then something completely different from leadership. Part of multiple topic training can be, intro level leadership, and then intermediate level leadership, and then maybe advanced level leadership. And so the multiple topic training is, we're going to do an intro class here. We're going to do an intermediate class here. We're going to do an advanced class here. We're going to have a Q&A over here to deal with specific executive level decision making. We're going to have a separate Q&A session specifically for the middle level of the management. And we're going to have then an open forum to have discussion on specific issues dealing with frontline team members. Now, it's all in the umbrella of leadership. It's all part of the 4P360 leadership system, but the specific topics are different. It just comes out of that family, just like in martial arts. If I was going to do a seminar on the punching kicking part, a different seminar on the grappling part, a different seminar on some weapons, and you just break it up. You can also tap into experts that have a broad base of expertise, that know how to do multiple things. Now, maybe they're related, maybe not. Because a lot of experts do have, every once in a while, a smattering of unrelated skills. Now, for me, everything that I do and everything I teach is related to leadership in some way, shape, or form. But some of the material that I know is related to leadership in kind of some very interesting ways. For instance, one of my personal favorite things to do as a demonstration of inner game, what inner game and mindset can do for you, what the power of what goes on inside and how you think affects outcomes, is I like to turn allergies off, food allergies to be specific. Now, if it's not medically dangerous, if it's been a medically diagnosed allergy and it's medically dangerous to have this reaction to whatever particular food someone's allergic to, we don't test those. We can still use a technique, but we don't test those. But every once in a while, it's kind of fun to help someone who has a food allergy just turn the food allergy off. I've worked with people who had milk allergies. We just turn the milk allergy off. We turn, an interesting one, an allergy to dark beer. An unfortunate German man who developed an allergy to some of his favorite brands of beer, the dark beers. So we turned that one off. A little girl who had developed a gluten allergy and had difficulty going to like birthday parties and such because she couldn't eat the same cake everyone else was having. And I watched her staring longingly at a birthday cake, and so I was able to work with her. We turned off her gluten allergy. And so all of these different things we have an opportunity to do to demonstrate inner game. Well, sometimes people just want an allergy turned off because they want the allergy turned off. That for them, it's not an illustration of the power of inner game. They have an allergy and they're sick of having the allergy, and they just want the thing turned off. And sometimes, we might do an extra session, or possibly for those people who are interested, if there's several people in the group that had a food allergy, I'd be more than happy to take my Turn Allergy Off course and to teach it at the company. And the way that would work is during the course of a full-day seminar, not only do we turn off any food allergies of anyone and everyone in the room that has a food allergy they want to turn off, but actually teach them how to do this with other people. And that might seem like it's an unrelated topic, but that is just a technique that I use to illustrate the power of inner game at sort of a different level. And then we can do that. So if someone decided, that sounds like that's an interesting thing. How about while we have you here, we also set up kind of one of your days we'll be teaching people how to turn allergies off. And that we'll kind of work that in too. So that's another possibility. So number one, marketing and promotion. Number two, multiple trainings in a day. Number three, multiple topic training. So you actually have people come in and teach different topics. Could be different levels of the same topic, different aspects of their broader topic, or something that might even seem like it's completely unrelated. Now in my case, they're connected because it all has to do with mindset, inner game, how you think, your principles and philosophies, and how those manifest in your actions and your actual things that you do, whether you're talking about doing them in business or what your body is physiologically reacting to, which is a really interesting exercise in inner game. You can launch training from books or programs. So this is number four. If you want to get the most value from your expert, you can launch the training from books or programs. Now in my case, as of this recording, I think I have 12 books that are done and published. And we have more that are in the works, so depending upon when you're listening to the audio or when you're watching the video, I may have more than 12, so whatever the number is right now. I have, I believe at this point, 18 audio programs that are complete and available for sale, and a number of audio programs I just prompt the people. And so at this particular moment in time, that's about my numbers. Now, say if someone's going to have me come in and you want me to work with you on the aspect of leadership, specifically dealing with the language of emotions, so you can understand the emotional states and reactions of your clientele in particular, of your employees, of your leaders, and you want to understand all of this. Well, the Language of Emotions program is about 24 hours of training. So if you wanted to hire me to come in and do a retreat, it could be the entire retreat. And it could just be a Language of Emotions retreat, and I could end up teaching just what's in those two programs. I could end up teaching just what's already in the Emotional Genius book. Well, that might be a terrific degree of insight. That might make you guys emotional geniuses. That'll give you a magnitude of insight into how emotions work and what they mean and what you do about them, what you do about your own emotions, what you do about your clients' emotions. But do you really want me to come in and spend the entire time and pay me $30,000 or more to come in and teach your team something that they could have learned from these programs? Where instead of paying, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 for your elite team members to come learn this live from me, that for a much reduced fee, they could have all gotten a copy of the book, and they could all have gotten a copy of the audio, and then when we get together, all I have to do is review the material that they've already been exposed to, and launch from there into more depth, into the aspects of the language of emotion that specifically apply to business in general and to your business in particular. And that would be a much more powerful way to get the value out of the leader, to get the value out of the expert. So when I come to teach, I'm not teaching the same thing that's already recorded. I'm not teaching the same thing that's already written. The basics of language of emotions will rise to the top 2% of people understanding emotions. They're kind of Mensa standard. To join Mensa, you have to be in the top 2%. And so that's kind of my standard for genius. If I can make you more insightful on the issue of emotions than 98 out of 100 people, then I consider you're an emotional genius. That we've got your emotional intelligence up to that genius level. But you could also do that with about 3 listenings to my audio program and reading through my book, studying the book. What if I could take that same thing and show up and you're ready to learn Stealth Mastermind? You're ready to learn how to work it on your particular team dynamics. You're ready to take the same lessons and launch it up to the next level of application, that now you understand this part, and then how this part launches up to what I call the Phileo bank account, and how that works, and how you're going to use the Phileo bank account, and how that connects to the silver rule and the golden rule. And so having these things and these insights, and how these kind of insights affect even the copper rule, is enormously powerful. And you can do that by launching the training off of the book, and launching the training off of the program, that you get the books for your team, you get the programs for your team, and you give them the opportunity to listen to it in their cars, just in what we call the net time, no extra time. Tony Robbins has coined that phrase. So you're not taking any extra time, it's just something that they're listening to. And even if they're not paying attention to it, say they're listening to it during a work day, so they're actually doing other work, it's just kind of playing in the background where they can hear it, they can listen to it on and off, but really they're doing other things. That's still going to give them a solid foundation, so the review will activate that in their mind and go, oh yeah. And then if they have the books and they have the audios, then afterwards, even if they didn't read the book beforehand, and honestly, think back to college days, a lot of people won't read the book. And if you think back to you're preparing for classes, a lot of people won't prep for the classes. And so for them, the review is going to just be their introduction, really. And then it dives in deep, and if they're interested in backing up and filling in the back of everything that they learned at more of an expert level and kind of undergirding and building a foundation, that they have the material to do that with. And considering how many books I have and how many audios I have, if we're dealing with that particular aspect of leadership, that would be an enormously powerful way to get the most value out of my presence. And a lot of experts have books. A lot of experts have programs. A lot of experts have online programs and videos and all sorts of different ways to access their information. And if you can use their books or use their programs as a foundation so then they can go forward to higher levels of expertise, you can get more value from that expert. Mealtime chats. Now this is one of those that gets tremendously overlooked. So we talked about number 1, marketing promotions. Number 2, multiple trainings in a day. Number 3, multiple topic training. Number 4, launch training from books or programs. Number 5 is mealtime chats. Now actually it was interesting because this is something that I've done. I heard that Marshall Goldsmith, one of the colleagues I have just a tremendous amount of respect for, also does something like this, is that his assistant was talking to him and said, well, these people, they're going to want to have like an extra session with you over dinner. And he pauses, well, I have to eat anyway. If I like the clients, I'm more than happy to work with them and chat with them over dinner. I'd rather eat with them than eat alone. So mealtime chats. Now here's a structure. I learned this one from Bill Walsh that you can do for mealtime chats, is you just buy the expert dinner or you buy the expert lunch. So the very simple thing what we did at one particular event is each expert had a table, each expert had a topic, and everyone who was going out to lunch or wanted to join the expert would just divide up the cost of the expert's meal. And so in that case, it wasn't even the company that paid. Now at the last event that we did the mealtime chats, the company did pay for the meal, and the people all at my table, they didn't actually pay anything extra. That was included in the level of the event that they were already paying to attend, or was being paid for them by their company to attend. And whoever wanted my topic over lunch would come and sit, and we had an extended lunchtime, and we had a mealtime chat. Even at a micro level, at an individual level, if you've flown your expert in, I live in the San Diego area right now. If you've flown me in from out of town and I'm with you in Orlando or somewhere in Hawaii or in Dubai, well, I'm going to need to eat anyway. And if I'm going to be eating anyway and you have the opportunity to maybe take me out to one of your favorite restaurants. It's not my neighborhood. I might not know exactly where I want to go, what the good food has. And so having the opportunity to be taken out to dinner and then let you pick my brain over dinner, that would be okay with me, because it's not like I'm missing my family, because I needed to go out and eat anyway. Now, if you're doing this at home in San Diego and it's either dine with you or go home and have dinner with my family, well, I'm going to be perfectly honest, I'm more likely to go home and have dinner with my family. But even if, say, my family's with me, and your family and my family are going to get together, and I think that, we probably all get along, and you think we probably all get along, well, then we can all join one another for dinner. And we can have a mealtime chat about the topic of my training or any other collateral things. And that is an often overlooked way to get more value out of an expert, because we're there anyway. So particularly if you're the CEO, CFO, COO, CTO, whatever your particular job is at the executive level, and you might want to really pick the brain of the expert in a very specific sort of way, and something that applies for your position that might be beyond the scope of what you want to do in a more open Q&A. A mealtime chat is a great way to do that. Just invite the expert out for dinner or invite the expert to join you for lunch, and just enjoy the time getting to know one another, but also feeling free to ask additional questions. And by the way, if you're going to do this, be sure the expert understands the terms of the invitation. So if the expert, say, thinks that they're being invited out just at a social basis, and then it turns into kind of a working dinner, well, it's really not fair to kind of spring that on the expert. But so long as the expert knows, okay, are you up for like a working meal, that several of us are going out to dinner, we'd love to take you out to dinner, if it's okay with you, and kind of pick your brain a little bit on some things. And so long as the expert knows what the deal is, well, then they'll say yes or they'll say no, and they'll agree or disagree, and then off you go. So mealtime chats. Now, number 6 is hosting experts. Now, this one is another very overlooked one because it's pretty typical. If you're going to fly me in, you're going to put me up in a hotel. It was a kind of an interesting thing is a couple of us were flown into Chicago, and we were actually on the same plane on the way over, and it was a man and a woman. I was the man, and a colleague of mine was the woman. Now, she got put up in a hotel because the host was a man. And his children are grown up, they're off to college, he's got plenty of room in his very large house, and so we kind of got taken out to his estate and stayed there. Now the woman, because they thought it might be inappropriate to have a woman staying with the men, she was put up very traditionally in a nice hotel right near the event. But by hosting the expert at your home, a lot of experts, so long as it's a nice place and so long as they have their own room, especially if they have their own room and the bathroom, shower, and all of that, they're more than happy to stay with people if they like the people, if they have reason to believe they're going to get along with the people. And if you're hosting the expert, well, then you get the breakfast chat. You might get a late evening chat. In particular, in Chicago, 2 of us were sitting down in the jacuzzi late at night talking leadership programs and how you structure them and how you structure trainings. And some of the issues that the gentleman I was having the conversation with was having in structuring the training. That there's so many things he wanted to cover, but they were scattered individual things, and you kind of need to collect them in and kind of systemize them. And so I had an opportunity to chat with him about that. And that would not have been possible were I not the hosted expert. If I was off in a hotel room somewhere, that wouldn't have happened. And so by hosting experts, if you've got the space, if you've got the home, you can do that. Now, related to this, it doesn't even necessarily have to be a very nice home. So there was an expert trainer that was invited to Australia. And I thought, well, I've never really done anything in Australia before. It wasn't a corporation inviting him in, so the amount of money he was going to make wasn't quite guaranteed. It was going to depend how many people signed up to attend the various trainings and attend the various events. And so we understood that there was going to be some risk involved. But this is what the team offered. On hosting him, one of their team members was going to vacate her condo so that he was going to be able to stay in a condominium in Australia in a very nice neighborhood. And that the owner of the condo was going to leave the condo for the duration of the expert's stay. So he was going to have his own condominium while he was there. Something else that they said is they would also send members of their team in to handle the cooking for him, to handle any shopping for anything specific he might like, or to take him to the store so he wouldn't have to meander around and find anything. And on the days in between the trainings or the evenings after the trainings, that they would take him out sightseeing and they would take him out for a bit of a nightlife or whatever else interested him. And I thought, well, that sounds like an interesting proposition. So his risk was, in his case, the air flight out there, because he didn't know for sure if they were going to make enough money even to pay for the flight. But he didn't have to pay for accommodations, he didn't have to pay for food, he didn't have to pay for a rental car. That's a fairly small risk to go out and do it. And to be honest, he ended up not making nearly as much money as he normally would on his trainings. But he figured, it's the first time in Australia, these people don't know who I am, I don't have a relationship with them. But as they get to know me and as the power of what I'm teaching them becomes more evident, maybe in a future event we might do better. So I'm willing to take that risk. He made a little bit of money, but not nearly as much as he normally would. But here's the deal. To this day, this is years ago, to this day he still talks about how much fun it was being in Australia, how great this team was. And and being a guy, it's probably not terribly surprising that it was kind of fun for him to wake up in the morning and 3 ladies show up to cook breakfast for him. And that most of the people that were assigned to him were fairly attractive Australian women. So certainly for him, that didn't hurt. Nothing romantic happened with any of them at all, but he did enjoy his experience. And just the fact he enjoyed his experience told him, I'd be willing to do that again. Even if I only make as much money as I made the last time I went, that was a lot of fun. And it was by hosting the expert. Breakfast, lunch, dinner provided, And because the hosts didn't have a lot of money, they couldn't initially expend the funds because were raising the funds to create the event. Then they tried to figure out how can we do this as inexpensively as possible. And in their case, they figured, okay, well, this particular woman has a very nice condo. So if she's willing to go stay with someone for 3 weeks, then we can put the expert up in the condo. That won't cost us anything. And then instead of having to buy meals at restaurants, we'll just go grocery shopping. I mean, it's going to be fairly inexpensive to feed breakfast, lunch, and dinner to someone if we're grocery shopping and someone just goes and cooks it for them. And then we can save on rental and transportation if he's willing to just be driven around in our personal vehicles. All of which he was willing to do because of how pleasant everybody was. So this idea of hosting experts, whether it's you have a nice place like the mansion in Chicago, or whether you just have nice people like the condo in Australia. And in that case, there was some level of privacy. In Chicago, I had a bedroom. In Australia, my friend had an entire condo to himself. So there's lots of ways to do hosting of experts. And it doesn't always have to be to put them up in a nice resort hotel room and spend that kind of money and pay for whatever other expenses there are. There's inexpensive ways to do that. And now here's some of the power of it, though. If you're the host, you get the mealtime chats. If you're the host, you get those late evening chats. Like with the other guy working on his leadership training. You're the sitting in the jacuzzi in the evening chats. And so you have a chance to pick the brain of the expert. And you have a chance to build relationship with the expert, which can be very useful over time. Now, number 7 is to partner with other organizations. Partner with other organizations. So you get the most value for your expert if you partner with other organizations to reduce your costs, so the expert still gets their full fee, but you work with another organization so you split the expenses. Or maybe you have, say, a not-for-profit that you support, and even if they don't have the money, you can invite more people in. And as you invite more people in, of course, that's providing more value. Say if on your particular team, you're looking at teaching your team, and you might have 500 people coming to be trained. But you also have some not-for-profits you support, maybe some churches you support, and say in the case of what I'm doing of leadership training, you think, it might be really, really good if each of us supported our charities and supported our churches by inviting more people in, and I'm perfectly willing to work in an 800-person room as opposed to a 500-person room, especially if it's not-for-profits. Or if you want to split the expenses 2 or 3 ways in connected organizations. Could be people out of your mastermind team. Could be people out of your networking organization. They're all kind of getting together and hiring me to come in and do a joint event for you. Because a great deal of leadership isn't specific to one industry. Of course, it's pretty general. Leadership is leadership. Now, my particular expertise might be a focus on hospitality because there's some particular issues with hospitality. The biggest one is turnover is huge. And another one, of course, is that almost everyone that your clientele interacts with are going to be your front line, bottom of the hierarchy people. That's going to be most of your client's interaction. Well, guess what? If you're in retail, it's pretty much the same way. That most of your client interaction is going to be with, the bottom of the totem poles or the people. That you're going to be hiring the clerks. You're going to be hiring the floor people. And generally speaking, those aren't necessarily going to be managers with people underneath them, and you'll be training the managers for leadership, that it's a particular type of leadership you teach these people. And there's a lot of overlap between, say, a retail organization or a sales-oriented organization and a hospitality organization. And so a lot of the things that might be fairly unique to hospitality will also apply in several other industries. And then, of course, a lot of leadership is just leadership no matter what the company is. And so you could invite several companies that all join together to make it a significant event and share some of the costs. So the expert gets paid, but you don't have to pay that much money. Now, I did promise I would also share with you, how do you make sure something actually happens? So we talked about the 7 ways to get the most value from your expert. Number 7 we just did was partner with other organizations so that you're spending less money for what you're getting, or to expand who you invite so that way more value is being provided to people. We talked about hosting the experts. We talked about mealtime chats. We talked about launch training from books or programs. We talked about multiple topic training. We talked about multiple trainings in a day. And we talked about help with marketing and promotions. So all this is well and good. You get the expert in. The expert shows up and does the training. Now, how do you get things to actually happen? Well, the secret to getting something to actually happen, quite frankly, is follow-up, follow-up, follow-up. That is the simplest, most powerful technique to get things done. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on exactly how you do the follow-up, but you do need to decide what is it exactly someone's doing. Now, the person can decide that for themselves, or you can decide that for them. It's up to how you want to structure it. You know, I would have my recommendations if I'm providing the training based upon the specific, unique circumstances of your company, so I can't really do that in a training like this. But here's how you do the follow-up. You follow up on the very first day. And it's a quick check-in. Just how are you doing? What are you starting? What is it you're going to do? Now that check-in might even be at the event. To find out from everyone, what is the one thing you're going to implement first? And if it's a small, simple thing, okay, what is the second thing you're going to add to that? And both of them are fairly small still together. And what's the third thing you're going to implement? Keep it no more than 3. And there's actually a system to figure out what 1, 2, and 3 ought to be if you don't have a system yourself or a particular thing you want to make sure that they're going to do. And however you choose it, you make that decision and you follow up day 1. And so that's day 1. Now you might do day 1, your first day back at the office. And it's a very quick follow-up. You're just asking, well, what is it you're going to be working on? On a scale of negative 10 being, oh my God, you're the worst person on the planet on this, to positive 10 being there really isn't much room for improvement anyway, and 0 being, well, yeah, never really thought about it, never really did it. Where are you? And most people will probably be somewhere in the positive numbers, maybe in a small negative number. So, okay. And what is it you're going to be working on to move that up to where you want it? And they might give you 1 or 2 ideas. The entire meeting might take 60 to 90 seconds for that part of the discussion. So you might even just wander around the office and just ask. You might ask for it to be submitted to you in writing by something as simple as an email. Just, let me know what you're working on. And then you follow up on day 3. And on day 3, you just check in and see how's it going. Now, it's possible, and even likely, that by day 3, they really haven't done anything. Especially if they've been away at an event that cut into their work time and now they're catching up. But this follow-up keeps it at the forefront of the brain. So you follow the day 1, which can be day 1 at the event, at the end of the event, or day 1 back at the office. And whatever your 1 is, 2 days or 2 work days after, for day 3, you follow up again. How are you doing? What is it you're working on? And then you follow up again day 1, day 3, day 7, or 1 week later. So if it's business days, it might be day 5. So day 1, day 3, day 7. Then you follow up again on day 14, 2 weeks out. You follow up again 3 weeks out. You follow again 1 month out. Then you follow up 2 months out, 3 months out, 6 months out, 9 months out, 12 months out. And if you do that, just the act of following up, just the fact that they know whatever it is they decide they're going to work on, that someone's going to be asking them about it. And if that's as far as you get in understanding follow-up, is just to ask them, so how are you doing on ... And you're not getting any 360-degree feedback. No one else is doing any measure of them. They're not having a performance review based upon that. Even just asking has enormous power to keep this at the forefront of someone's mind and keep anchoring in their heart again and again and again that this is something they want to be working on, that this was the chosen thing, whether they chose it for themselves or was chosen for them. And as they step up, just with the awareness, it will create the shift. How powerful is that? Now, there's a lot of ways you can make it even more powerful. Now, I'm going to tell you a couple of the tricks here. Number 1 is never go negative. So you're not reprimanding people for doing bad. You let them self-reprimand, because if they have to tell you, well, I haven't really done anything, just that part alone is going to get them kind of twinged in the heart of you dealing with reasonably mature adults, if you're dealing with professionals, that's going to happen by itself. Just knowing they're being asked is going to do that. So you don't have to reprimand them. Now, you can give them praise for concrete steps if you like. You do also need to be a little bit careful about how you do that, depending what it is that they're working on. But you can give acknowledgement. You can also do some form of 360-degree feedback, or even 1-degree feedback. But if you just check in with their leader, or if you're the leader, you keep an eye on them and kind of see how they're doing, and try to catch them winning. Ask them for specific examples. Someone says, "Oh yeah, I'm doing that." Say, "Okay, can you give me a specific example? Tell me, who you interacted with, and give me the story." And just ask them to tell you, a 2-minute story about something that they did that's related to this thing that they're working on. And then jot down the stories. Or when someone does something connected to something that they're working on, have them just jot it down on a 3x5 card or a Post-it note, or shoot it off to you in an email. Heck, or even send you a text, depending upon what the communication structure is in your organization, so that you know, but more importantly, so they know that the wins get counted, and you're paying attention to the wins. And that will help create change. But that follow-up is key. Not to wait for an annual review, but the reason you do it in this pattern, you do it immediately, because if I am off track on day 1, I need to fix that when? On day 1. By checking in on day 3, if I'm on track or off track at day 3, I've either begun and I've got my wins. That's my second win. I hit day 3 and I'm doing it. But if on day 3 I'm off track, when do I need to fix that? I need to fix that on day 3. I don't need to fix that in an annual review next year. I need to fix that now. And then you check in week by week through the first month. And again, what you're looking for is on track or off track. How's that going? What is it you're doing? Tell me a story. Just a quick little 1 or 2 minute story. What's going on? How's it working out for you? And if someone's off track, or they're finding that it's harder to actually do than they thought it was going to be to do, all right, then how are we going to upgrade the plan? How are we going to boost this up? How much help do you need to make sure you do this? The simpler thing is, maybe you just need to stick a note on a Post-it note and put it somewhere you can see it. You just need to decide on like a personal symbol for you that will help remind you that this is something that you're working on. And then let's work it. And there's all kinds of ways to do the 6-word question of how much help do you need to kind of boost it up. And then once you have something that works, by the end of that first month, you should have it tweaked enough that it's actually working for you. And once it's working for you, then you check in monthly for the first quarter. And so you've checked in so far day 1, day 3, day 7, 14, 21 at the 1 month mark, then 2 months and 3 months, and then quarterly through the end of the year, or until whatever point you want to declare victory. Because you may find by the end of that first month that you're ready to declare victory. You might do one more check-in a month later to kind of see if the habit's continuing, but you might be ready to declare victory in a month. You might be ready to declare victory in 6 months. You might be ready to declare victory in a year. You might want to wait until 2 years before you declare victory. However it is you want to do it. But you follow up, follow up, follow up. And the key to effective follow-up is follow up immediately to start, follow up quickly after the immediately, and then slowly let the follow-up spread themselves out. But you want to get the on track, off track right away, and make sure that you're on track. And by the end of that first month, you should be really solidly on track. You should have boosted your plan to make sure you're on track. And by then, it should start to stick. Now, you're still following up, ideally. Even if you declare victory at the month, still follow up at 2 months. You might still follow up at 2 months and 3 months and 6 months and 12 months and have it be part of the next annual review. But there's periodic follow-up to get back on track. If there's off track, to boost the track. Even if you're on track and you say, okay, I'm on track for what I said I was going to do, but I really think I can do better. I think I really nailed that in the first month. I'm going to step up my game even higher. I'm going to take this to the next level. And then that could be the new thing. And remember again, what is it? It's follow-up, follow-up, follow-up. And that's the secret to make sure that the change actually takes place. So this is Scott Conway. with seven secrets to getting the most out of your expert. 7 secrets to getting the most out of your speaker, trainer, or coach. 7 secrets to making sure that the money you're spending to get this expert to come do the training is as highly leveraged as possible. Now, this is a part 1 of 2 because there is a second part to this. Now, the second part of this, and it's going to be in a separate lesson, whether it's video or audio, so this lesson is going to get wrapped up. Lesson number 2 is alternatives to just paying cash. So what you're going to do if an expert is going to be $100,000 to have come in and do this set of trainings, and you don't have $100,000 in your budget. So you have $50,000 in your budget, but you need $100,000 of expertise. What can you do? Is there a way to stretch the budget? You just have to do with half. You know, what if you only have $10,000? You think, well, for $10,000, we're not going to be able to get the time from the expert to really make a meaningful difference. We're going to have to do all of our training internally and not get this extra fresh blood coming in with these new powerful ideas that we'd really like to see implemented. I guess we're just stuck. You don't have to be. But there's tons of ways for alternatives to cash payment. So if your budget is a little tight and the expert is more expensive than your budget, these are going to be some techniques that will allow you to stretch your budget, to be looking for additional values that you can bring to the expert so that you can compensate them in ways that might not be in cash, but will be valuable to the expert. So that's going to be in part 2.